Tesla Model 3 critic and Detroit veteran Sandy Munro discussed much of the results of his company's teardown of the electric car in a recent episode of Autoline After Hours. In a lengthy discussion with the network's panel, Munro explained what he liked about electric car, even gushing at one point and saying that the Model 3 electronics are comparable to a flight controller found on the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II stealth multirole fighter. In his most recent Autoline interview, Munro noted that his team is almost finished with its analysis and teardown of the electric car. While the Detroit veteran still maintained that he doesn't have much good to say about the vehicle's mechanical components, the Model 3's electronics, battery, and suspension are a completely different matter. According to Munro, the Model 3's automatic drive modules are a class above the industry, featuring a design architecture that is usually found on high-end electronics and government-grade machines. Munro even compared the Model 3's drive module to the flight controller of the F-35, which he is familiar with due to his company's work for the U.S. military. Munro said, "If you look at this thing, this is cell phone technology. This is the technology we would see in really high-end computers, normally for the government. When you look at this, you're looking at the same kind of technology you'd see on a flight controller for an F-35. And we kind of know a little bit about that too. We do work for the military. Everything here smacks of cell phone technology and defense technology." The Detroit veteran further stated that Tesla could very well be the leader in battery tech today. According to Munro, prior to tearing down the Model 3, he believed that LG's battery modules used in the Chevy Bolt EV are the best in the industry. Tesla's batteries, however, are on a completely new level. Munro was particularly impressed with the differential between each one of the Model 3's battery blocks. Munro said, "We went through there, and the difference was 0.2 milliamps. Holy, nobody can balance batteries that close. Nobody. Nobody's ever done that." Apart from the Model 3's battery and its electronics, Munro also noted that the suspension for the Model 3 was excellent. The teardown specialist went so far as to state that the person who designed the car's suspension could easily be an F1 prince. Overall, however, Munro maintained that the Model 3 is weighed down by its substandard fit and finish. The Detroit veteran said that if Tesla had been more deliberate on the Model 3's more basic, mechanical aspects such as its panels and its doors, the vehicle could easily bring competitors to their knees. Munro even noted that if an experienced contract manufacturer had worked on the Model 3's body, the Elon Musk firm would have hit every target and even Toyota would be crapping their pants. He said, "Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that's what they are. And that's the good thing for the auto industry, because if it would have just been a normal car from the mechanical side, from, like I say, the dinosaur technologies. If it came out decent with all the other stuff, they'd mop the floor with everybody." Overall, Munro ultimately concluded that the Model 3 is a car that the industry should not dismiss, and that anyone in the automotive business who chooses to ignore Tesla's progress is doing so at their own peril. Munro said, "Anybody that doesn't look at the electronics on the Tesla Model 3 is out of his mind. They're in peril. This is not some Mickey Mouse outfit that you can just dismiss. Anybody that's in the car industry that ignores this car is doing it at their own peril." Sandy Munro is the CEO of Munro and Associates, a company specializing in vehicle teardowns and analysis. Previously featured in two of Autoline's YouTube segments about the Model 3, Munro took a very critical stance on the electric car's build quality, calling the Model 3 a miserable job and admitting that he hated some of the vehicle's design elements. In a later video about the Model 3's front and drive, however, Munro admitted that while the vehicle's fit and finish were horrible, its handling and performance were great.
The 2019 Subaru Forester gets a complete remodel from the ground up, but did Subaru do enough to get consumers to take another look at the newest makeover? Forester is one of the brand's oldest nameplates, and this new model is the 5th generation of the small SUV. One look at the outside says no, because the 2019 Forester exterior design changes aren't extreme. Forester was the #1 selling vehicle in the Subaru of America stable, but for the last 2 years, it's been second to the Outback wagon. Last year Outback 188,886 was the top dog in the lineup, beating Forester 177,563 as Subaru's #1 selling all-wheel drive vehicle in the stable. Subaru is hoping that will change with the makeover. According to Subaru of America CEO Tom Dahl, 2 things will be the difference as consumers take a look at the new 2019 Forester. Dahl told Automotive News at the New York International Auto Show, "The interior is really the differentiator for this car." The next generation Forester gets significant upgrades inside the cabin. It gets new seats up front. All Foresters except the base standard trim come with an 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system, a new electronic parking brake frees up console space, new materials inside, and the SUV will be more spacious overall, with rear seat legroom growing by 1.4 inches. The cabin will also be quieter, thanks to the new Subaru Global platform Forester now rides on. Subaru calls their top-of-the-line touring trim the most luxurious Forester ever. It comes with a rich brown interior, 10-way power driver's seat, an 8-way power front passenger seat, heated rear seats and a heated steering wheel. All models will come with a wider rear liftgate opening, plus 5.3-inch for easier loading of cargo. Dahl says the safety factor will also be a big draw for consumers as they rediscover Forester. He said, "Once people see the Forester and get an understanding of what it's all about, and the safety aspects that we've built into the vehicle, we think the sky's the limit with this thing." 2019 Albanian Lex Subaru Forester trims will now come standard with EyeSight driver assist safety technology. The small SUV will also be the only model in the lineup available with their new driver monitoring system called Driver Focus, aimed at preventing accidents. The all-new 2019 Subaru Forester will make its dealer launch later this fall, and it comes with a new Subaru Global platform, making it roomier inside, and it will also come with improved driving dynamics and a more fuel-efficient direct-injection 2.5-liter boxer engine. Subaru says the newly remodeled interior and added safety features will be the reasons why consumers will rediscover the Forester nameplate.
History is replete with turning points. A grand philosophical point, albeit one which comes from a somewhat ephemeral source. Not one of the great academic nor political minds of the age, but a line spoken by an actor in a film. By Leonard Nimoy, in fact, in his iconic role as Mr. Spock in Star Trek. Ephemeral, perhaps, but as so often with both Nimoy and Spock, really rather wise. We're looking for a historical turning point right now, or as Nissan Ireland's chief executive, James McCarthy, puts it, an inflection point. That indefinable hinge of history, when one circumstance begets another in the course of our lives, is changed. The trouble is, how does one know when one is standing at the turning point? How does one see history when one is living inside of it? One always assumes that the great women and men of history, Peirce, Markievicz, Churchill, Eisenhower, Parks, Bell Brunel, knew how significant their greatest days were. But then again, they got up those mornings and went to bed those nights, just as with any other day, so who can really tell? You only know the major moments of history once they've passed. So, is the launch of the new Nissan Leaf in Ireland one of those points? It could well be. We are already barreling towards that notional 2030 cutoff date, after which no internal combustion engines can be sold in Ireland, and the great wisdom is that motoring must go electric if it is to survive. The original Leaf was designed to awaken people to the very notion of driving about on silent battery power, but this second generation has a much tougher task: to convince the skeptics. The compelling argument, the one to defeat the skepticism, says Nissan Ireland's head of product, Peter Dinnan, is an economic one. People aren't minded to move out of their internal combustion engines right now, because they're affordable. They're unknown quantity, they know what their residuals are likely to be like. Equally, people didn't all rush towards buying diesel because we all suddenly fell in love with diesel as a fuel. It was because people love the most economical and affordable mode of transport out there. Nissan's task, then, is to convince buyers not only that the new Leaf has the sort of one-charge range to make it a viable and usable car for everyday use, but also to get across what it thinks are the savings buyers and drivers can make. If Nissan's figures are correct, then those savings could be substantial. The introduction of policies that allow companies to write off 100% of the value of an electric car in the first year of ownership could yield tax savings of between $3,000 and $10,000 compared to a similarly sized hatchback or crossover. Someone getting a new Leaf as a company car, thanks to the new benefit and kind rules, could be better off to the tune of $4,368. Meanwhile, a private buyer, just taking into account the cost of fuel and motor tax, could be as much as $1,400 better off in year one of Leaf ownership. Of course, these are Nissan's numbers, and there's a pinch of salt for everyone in the audience. There are also some very Rumsfeld-esque known unknowns and unknown unknowns in all of this. Such as how big a break on sales the public charging network will be when more and more people are trying to use it. Then there's the question of what the government does when someone at the Department of Finance wakes up and realizes that electric cars, assuming we get the now expected 500,000 electric cars on the road by 2030, are eating deeply into the $1 billion or so that the Exchequer currently gets from VRT, motor tax and fuel duty. Perhaps unknowns might be a better phrase. Still, one has to start somewhere, and the new Leaf is, in and of itself, a really impressive car. It's far more normal in its styling than the outgoing model, which is probably a good thing when it has to convince conservative Irish buyers that it's going to be their next car, but it's hardly the most exciting car to look at. Ditto the interior, which is fine but a touch ordinary. It is well built and pretty comfy, though, although the driving position would be better if the steering wheel were reach adjustable. What's really good about the new Leaf, though, is the way it drives. It's just so smooth and quiet, you'd call it oleaginous if there were actually any oil involved. The ride quality is on the firm side, but only very rarely intrusive, and the lack of wind, road, tire, and, of course, engine noise is hugely impressive. It's a very relaxing car to drive, thanks to all this quietness, but also rather a lot more invigorating thanks to sharper steering and the proper kick from the 150 bhp electric motor. You can even, hooligan style, spin up the front wheels under sharp acceleration. Of rather more import to more buyers, the e-pedal, which brakes the car firmly with both regenerative charging and the physical disc brakes when you lift off the accelerator, makes it something of a doddle to drive. And range? Well, we grabbed the keys to our test car with 74% charge in the batteries, and took it for a very brisk drive around the Wicklow Mountains, on roads arguably not best suited to an electric car, driving in a style specifically intended to put the battery under stress and wipe out range. After which, we dropped it back with 40% battery remaining. The distance to recharge readout seems to be a touch indecisive at times, but overall we reckon that in mixed driving, 200 to 250 kilometers should be easily achieved, even with some motorway miles involved. That's right in line with Nissan's claim of 270 kilometers. It's already proving successful. Irish orders currently stand at some 200, with the first cars only arriving in dealers now. The old Leaf's best year for sales was 400, and Nissan Ireland expects to pass that figure by the end of April. In a full sales year it could potentially do better than 2,000 sales a year. Its residual values are looking up too. Second-hand values of the old model have been up and down more times than West Bromwich Albion, but are rising fast now, especially thanks to the fact that UK values are going up as buyers seek a cheap-to-run second car, and move away from diesel and, indeed, petrol. Those hardening UK values are having an effect on the supply of used imported Leafs, which is having a knock-on with Irish values. Is it enough to make the new Leaf a true historical hinge point? Have we crossed an electric car Rubicon? Sadly, my only answer is that those living through history can rarely accurately assess its significance. This could well be the turning point, but if we want to get to that electric future, perhaps it's best to quote that other great cinematic philosopher, Dory the fish just keep swimming, just keep swimming.